If you could pull back the curtains of time and get smart money wisdom from our ancestors, what do you think they'd tell you? Maybe something wise like a penny saved is a penny earned, or something so bizarre you would think it was a myth like turning leather shoes into dinner. Hey everybody, welcome to Thrifty Budgeting. Today, we're taking a budget-friendly time machine through history to explore some of the smartest and strangest unconventional money habits that people used before extreme couponing and budgeting apps existed. Now, each era had its own unique way to stretch a coin, so as we travel through time, we'll highlight a few frugal habits from each period. Some are surprisingly clever, while others are downright head-scratching. Now, we'll also highlight modern-day equivalents that you can use where they make sense, because while some of the methods may have changed, the smart money mindset definitely hasn't. Now, our first stop, ancient civilizations. Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Are they frugal or just funky? It's time to hop back thousands of years to the age of pharaohs, philosophers, and gladiators. Let's see how the OG budgeters saved money before banks, credit cards, or, well, soap was widely available. Now, while they may not have had fancy budgeting apps, they did have a clever way to make their writing materials last. So, what are we talking about? Reusable writing tablets. Back then, writing wasn't just a casual pastime. It was costly. Paper was reserved for the most important records, so wasting it, not an option. Instead, ancient Romans and Greeks came up with a clever solution. Waxed covered wooden tablets. They would write on them, wipe them clean, and then reuse them again. So the verdict on this era's frugal habit. A smart money move. Why? Well, while wax-covered wooden tablets aren't used today, the idea behind them is still a smart money move. The concept of reusing writing materials to save money and reduce waste has evolved into a more practical and accessible options in today's world. So the modern equivalent would be whiteboards, reusable notebooks, and digital planners. But writing wasn't the only thing that they got resourceful with. Staying bug-free was a whole different challenge. Without modern sprays, they had to turn to nature for a solution. Enter herbal insect repellents. Ancient civilizations weren't about to let pesky bugs ruin their day. No way. Egyptians and Greeks discovered that certain herbs did more than just add flavor to their food. They also kept insects at bay. Basil, lemongrass, and cinnamon were among the go-to choices, but they didn't stop there. They burned herbs like sage and rosemary to ward off unwanted guests, hung fragrant bundles near the doors, and even infused oils with plant extracts to create primitive bug-repelling balms. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit? A smart money move. Why? Without store-bought bug sprays, they took a chemical-free approach, using naturally repelling herbs to keep the pest away. I mean, it was an easy, affordable solution that didn't rely on harsh chemicals, just simple, time-tested ingredients straight from their surroundings. Now, the modern equivalent would be essential oils and other DIY natural repellents that not only help ward off bugs, but also fill the air with strong, lasting aromas, whether it's a pleasant floral scent or a more pungent medicinal smell, depending on who you ask. But speaking of smell, let's talk about one of history's most questionable budget hacks. One that took resourcefulness to a whole new and rather eye-watering level. Urine as laundry detergent. You heard me right. Not making it up. Yes, this was real. Ancient Romans collected fermented urine because it contains ammonia, which acts as a cleaning agent. So, imagine telling your guest, "Oh, don't mind that jar. It's just my homemade laundry detergent." And the verdict on this era's frugal habit: a frugal fail. Why? Do we really have to tell you why? While ammonia can be an effective cleaning agent, collecting and fermenting urine was neither practical nor sanitary. So unlike other frugal hacks that stood the test of time, this one is best left in history because thankfully we have much cleaner alternatives today. So what's the modern equivalent? And that's going to be your vinegar-based cleaners, a much better alternative. Now, thankfully, as time passed, people found far more practical ways to keep things clean, but not every change made life easier. As we leave the Roman baths, hopefully not smelling like them, we move into an era where resourcefulness was a way of life, whether by necessity or sheer creativity. Next stop, medieval and Renaissance innovative money-saving tactics. Are they resourceful or just ridiculous? Welcome to the Middle Ages, a time of castles and knights, grand feast, and everyday folks getting really creative with stretching their resources. Let's take a look at how medieval folks made their coins go further. One of the things that they did was extending their garment life with patchwork clothing. Now, during the medieval and Renaissance periods, clothing was a valuable commodity. Instead of discarding worn garments, people commonly repaired them using patchwork techniques, sewing fabric pieces over holes or frayed areas to extend their usability. So the verdict? A smart money move. Why? Repairing clothing saves money and helps you avoid buying unnecessary replacements like another shirt just because of a missing button. So whether through hand sewing or modern alternatives, keeping clothes in use longer is a budget-friendly and sustainable habit. So what's the modern equivalent? And that's going to be, of course, mending clothes, visible mending, upcycling fashion, and no-sew alternatives for those who don't sew. So if you're in a hurry or not handy with a needle, you can use quick fixes like button replacement gadgets that snap buttons back on without sewing, fabric glue and iron-on patches to fix small holes without a needle and thread, and no-sew hemming tape and snap fasteners, which are perfect for easy alterations. So whether you love to sew or avoid needles like a porcupine, there's always ways to keep your clothes lasting longer. But clothing wasn't the only area where resourcefulness came in handy. Healthcare also relied heavily on nature's pharmacy. DIY herbal remedies. People concocted homemade herbal mixtures for both overall health and to address various ailments from soothing colds to treating bug bites. So the verdict? A smart money move. Why? Some of these remedies actually worked and are still recognized today. For example, onion juice was used to soothe earaches, and honey helped to treat wounds thanks to its natural antibacterial properties. A lot of plant-based treatments became the foundation for modern medicine. Of course, not every historical remedy was a winner, like crushed gemstones to cure diseases or leech therapy to remove bad blood and restore the body's natural balance. Yeah. So the modern equivalent? That would be natural remedies and essential oils. So while natural medicine helped heal people, survival sometimes meant taking resourcefulness to the next level. When food was scarce, people had to get really creative with what they had. And if you thought questionable medical treatments were bad, just wait until you hear about what some folks were willing to eat. Boiled leather shoes. Now, in extreme situations, people boiled leather shoes to make soup. And why? When survival's on the line, people will do whatever it takes to get through, even if that means turning their shoes into supper. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit? A frugal fell. Why? Consuming boiled leather provided negligible nutrition and introduced potential toxins from tanning agents and dyes. So while soup is a great way to stretch ingredients, this was not a safe or practical choice. Some survival tactics are best left in history, and this is certainly one of them. The modern equivalent? Absolutely none. Thankfully, no one's trying to turn footwear into food these days, and let's keep it that way. Now, as history marched on, frugality continued to evolve, sometimes out of necessity and sometimes out of innovation. Up next was an era of creativity, resourcefulness, and making the most out of what you had, and sometimes in ways that are still useful today. The Victorian and Industrial Revolution. Now, one of the things that they did was make stale bread pudding, turning scraps into dessert. Now, Victorian households didn't waste food. Stale bread was never tossed out. Instead, it was repurposed into a delicious bread pudding, proving that a little creativity could turn food past its prime into a tasty treat. And the verdict? A smart money move. Why? Instead of throwing out stale bread, this trick lets you stretch ingredients, reduce waste, and create something delicious in the process. However, not all stale bread is safe to eat, so before repurposing, make sure that it's free from pest, mold, or any off smell. Now, stale bread may have a slightly dry or musty scent, but it shouldn't smell sour, rancid, or anything that makes you hesitate. So if it's just dry, it's still good to use. So the modern equivalent is going to be your French toast or baked bread desserts, and creative ways to repurpose stale bread into sweet and savory dishes. Now, saving money didn't stop in the kitchen. Victorians found ways to cut cost in their daily routines also. Even something as basic as drying clothes became an opportunity to harness the solar and wind power using clotheslines. So before electric dryers, Victorians commonly used clotheslines to air dry their laundry, taking advantage of the natural drying power of the sun and wind. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit: a smart money move. Why? Air drying clothes saves energy, reduces utility bills, and extends the lifespan of fabrics by avoiding the wear and tear of machine drying. Plus, let's not forget that bonus perk: nothing beats the fresh, sun-dried scent of bed sheets and clothes. Now, the modern equivalent would be using both outdoor and indoor clothes drying racks that still remains an effective and eco-friendly method for drying laundry. Now, frugality didn't stop at laundry. Victorians also found innovative ways to conserve resources in their daily routines. We are talking about shared bathwater, a soak in the family tub. So, to conserve water and fuel for heating, families of limited means shared the same bathwater, starting with the eldest and working down to the youngest. Now, the verdict on this era's frugal habit: a frugal fell. Why? Well, while it did save money, by the time the last person got in, the water was far from fresh, and medical research indicates that reusing bathwater for multiple people can create a breeding ground for bacteria, increasing the risk of infections, including UTIs. What starts out as a frugal move might end up costing more in doctor visits, and the modern equivalent to this is none. While conserving water is still important, reusing someone else's bathwater didn't stand the test of time, and for good reason. But some frugal habits weren't just about saving money, they were about survival, and no era understood that better than those who lived through the Great Depression and World War II. I mean, they sure knew how to make the most out of what they had, like feed sack clothing. Now, during the Great Depression and World War II, families didn't let anything go to waste, even the fabric from flour and feed sacks. As manufacturers caught on to this, they started printing colorful patterns on sacks, turning them into a popular source of material for dresses, shirts, and even curtains. Now, some families got so creative with their designs that swapping feed sacks for better patterns became a thing, kind of like collecting today's trendy clothing brands. And instead of being seen as cheap, it was really a symbol of resourcefulness and craftiness. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit? A smart money move. Why? The idea of upcycling clothes where people take thrifted or repurposed materials and transform them into stylish new pieces is still a great money-saving trick, and it's trendy now. The modern equivalent? DIY sewing and thrift flipping. Now, during the Great Depression and wartime, saving money wasn't just about clothing, it was about survival. And when food shortages hit hard, people turned to their own backyards to help feed their families. They embraced what are known as victory gardens. Now, during wartime, food shortages was a real struggle, and the government needed people to help pitch in. So what they did was encourage families to plant victory gardens, not just a way to put fresh food on the table, but as a patriotic act. It was called a victory garden because growing your own produce helped to ease pressure on public food supplies, ensuring that there was enough to go around for soldiers and civilians alike. So by 1944, victory gardens were responsible for nearly 40% of the fresh veggies grown in the U.S. Now that's a frugal move with some serious impact. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit: a smart money move. Why? Home gardening is still a great way to cut costs and eat fresh, healthy food. Plus, nothing beats homegrown tomatoes. Now, the modern equivalent would be home gardens, of course, and hydroponics. While growing their own food was a smart way to save money, frugality didn't stop at the dinner table for them. Some people got creative in ways that might surprise you, especially when it came to footwear. And when it came to making shoes last, some frugal folks took tough shoes to a whole new level. Shoes from tires. Yeah, some folks thought they could upcycle old tires into DIY shoes, giving their soles some serious mileage. And the verdict on this era's frugal habit: a frugal fell. Why? While repurposing materials is absolutely smart, tires were never meant for foot support. I mean, they're not breathable, they're heavy, rigid, and don't exactly scream comfort. Plus, cutting and shaping tire rubber is a nightmare without specialized tools. And let's not forget, trapping heat inside a tire shoe, your feet would be in their own personal sauna. So unless you're aiming for the ultimate tough as rubber work boots and love sweaty feet, this one is best left rolling in the past. Now, luckily, not all frugal ideas were this questionable. Some were so practical that they're still being used today. This brings us to the 1950s to present day. Not every money-saving hack from history was a winner, but some frugal habits stood the test of time and are still helping people save money today. Unlike some of the questionable tactics from earlier eras, these are practical, effective, and worth keeping around. So first, DIY cleaning products. Cheap and effective. Now, from the 1950s to today, families have used homemade cleaning solutions to keep their homes spotless without spending a bunch of money. Long before the store-bought sprays became the norm, people relied on vinegar, baking soda, lemon, and even Castile soap to tackle that dirt and grime. So over the years, this frugal habit has continued, with many turning back to natural alternatives to avoid those harsh chemicals and save money. And the verdict? A smart money move. Why? These natural cleaners have stood the test of time. I mean, they're still super affordable, effective, and way less toxic than store-bought alternatives. Plus, they give you that "I made this myself" feeling. So the modern equivalent? Homemade natural cleaners, DIY cleaning sprays, and eco-friendly store-bought alternatives. Now, cleaning up wasn't just about scrubbing the floors, though. Smart money habits extended beyond the home. So from the 1950s to today, people have continually looked for ways to manage their spending. And before digital finance tools became the norm, one of the simplest and most effective budgeting methods involved something as straightforward as envelopes. Cash envelope budgeting. Now, this is a simple but powerful way to manage your money. Cash envelope budgeting has been used for decades to track spending and stay on budget. Now, this system works by dividing your cash into labeled envelopes for different categories, like your needs, wants, and savings. So each envelope has a set amount of cash, and once it's emptied, that's it. No more spending in that category until the next budgeting period. So the verdict on this, a smart money move. Why? The concept has definitely stood the test of time, and it still works today, whether with physical cash or digital budgeting apps that follow the same principles. And the modern equivalent? Digital budgeting apps and banking features that automate spending categories. But smart money habits don't stop at budgeting. They extend to everyday spending choices. So from the 1950s to today, families have looked for ways to stretch their food budgets. And when it comes to mealtime, prepping ahead isn't just convenient. It's a total game changer. We're talking about DIY TV dinners. Now, the TV dinners were really freezer meal prep before it was cool. I mean, starting in the 1950s and continuing today, families have cooked in bulk in frozen meals to save time and money. What started as a way to simplify mealtime during busy post-war years evolved into a popular budget-friendly strategy that helps households cut down on food waste and grocery cost. So the verdict? A smart money move. Why? Meal prepping remains one of the best ways to save money, reduce food waste, and make busy nights easier, whether you're stocking up for a hectic work week or preparing in advance for an entire month. Now, the modern equivalent is batch cooking, freezer meals, and meal prep delivery services, and pre-portioned meal kits. And there you have it, some smart money through the ages. Some of these frugal habits stood the test of time, and some, well, being locked away in history books forever, where they belong. Now, the question is, would you try any of these old school money-saving tricks? And if so, let us know in the comments. Until next time, stay smart and just don't boil your shoes. Peace and love, and stay thrifty.